Spirit 105.3, good morning.
Good morning. This is Sue from Whiskers in Need.
Hi, I'm Erica from the morning show. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing during this wintry week?
I'm doing well. I'm busy bottle feeding some sick kittens who are getting much better. So I've been hanging out with little teeny babies making bottles.
That sounds lovely and a little bit like therapy, am I right?
Yeah, except for the part where I feed them every 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of therapy.
It's a lot of therapy.
I'm so glad you could be on the show. I didn't know about Whiskers in Need, acronym WIN, which is so fun, until I heard Booberry's story. And we'll get to Booberry. I can't wait. But first, why did you start this wonderful organization?
Well, back in 2019, we allied ourselves with Adams County Pet Rescue over in Othello, Washington, and started managing their cats at the Linwood PetSmart. And then we branched out in 2020 to fostering. And there are points where we have 50 cats in foster.
Wow.
And Adams County has very, very little money, and neither do we. But we started it so that we could be a funding organization to cover the medical cost of the cats once they got here.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about, can we fundraise for this kitten's emergency room visit, or can we fundraise for this amputation, just so that we could be on, so we would have the ability to take care of these kittens and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How long have you been a cat lover?
All my life. I have to say there are pictures of my father holding me as a tiny baby with a kitten that my godfather gave me.
Yeah, that'll do it. And why do you do what you do?
I come from a long line of people in service. My mother was a nurse, and she founded a shelter for homeless women and children in her 60s. It's inbred in me, and I love cats. I started volunteering in 2010 because as a union stagehand, our work was very quiet in the winter. And every winter I would worry about, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this winter? How am I going to get through this winter? And in 2010, I said, hey, you always get through it, and let's do something productive. And so I started volunteering with this rescue and worked with them until 2019 when they pulled out of the store, and several others, because they couldn't continue to support that space. And by then I had become the lead in the room, and I'm an organizational person. And I love working with the people I work with, all the volunteers. I love working with the store management in cooperation with everybody to get these cats home safely and not out on the streets, and into happy lives, and making families happy with connecting them with the right cat.
Oh, it's such a testimony to volunteering because, so often we're busy people. We don't have time. But if you make time, you really might find your passion. Am I right, Sue?
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like somebody needs to hear that today. Sue, what is the story you love to tell that illustrates the good work you do?
Oh, my gosh, there are so many. One of my favorites, actually, is a cat we lost this fall named Butters. He was abandoned basically by his lifetime owners when he was 12 and a half years old. He was a purebred Oriental short-hair cat, and his owners were like, oh, we got these puppies, and they just, they're making his life miserable, and he's been living in the bathroom for the last year, and he needs a better life. And he came to us at just about 5 pounds in liver failure with pancreatitis, with an enlarged heart, severely anemic. He was on death's door, and this was when he was 12 and a half, and we had him in the vet. We think we spent about $4,000 on him in the first month we had him. And the vets really felt like he was a hospice case because there were so many things going on that we couldn't correct one without making another bad.
Yeah.
And I placed him in a hospice foster care with a fabulous couple in Columbia City. And we thought he would have weeks. And he had 2.5 of the most wonderful years of his life.
Wow.
He gained his weight back. We got him healthy. He went on walks in the neighborhood in a harness. Everybody knew him. I believe his foster mom is writing a book called Everything's Better with Butters, a children's book with him in it. And it was just it was so uplifting to see this guy flourish and do so well. I mean, he was 15 and a half years old when he died.
Oh, you just didn't give up on Butters. That makes me so happy.
He was that's one that just will always resonate with me.
Wow.
We recently sent a kitten home with cerebellar hypoplasia, which is the wobbly cat syndrome. He was really fun because basically he was really energetic and all kitten, but his front end and his back end were kind of in different time zones. And so when you watched him run across the room, it was like it was just endearing, and he got a fabulous family. And really, the only accommodations he needs are elevated water and food dishes, so he doesn't have to bend over so far to eat and get really wobbly. We're sending home a cat this week named Trinity, who came to us from a teeny tiny rescue in Hawaii as an amputee. Because she has no chance of getting a home in Hawaii. All cats there are indoor-outdoor, and she needs to be indoor with just 3 legs. And she is going to go home this weekend to a family. We had to do a resection on her amputation because she had to have the leg totally amputated at the joint instead of just partially. But she's going home this week.
Oh, I love all your stories. And of course, we got to hear about Booberry. I mean, Booberry made the news, Sue. What happened?
I am amazed at how far that has gone. Booberry and his 4 siblings, the 5 of them, and their mom came over to us from Adams County Pet Rescue in November because mom had been found as a stray with new kittens, and she had a really bad case of mastitis, and basically one of her poor little mammary glands abscessed and exploded. And so she had this big gaping wound on her belly, and we needed to take care of the kittens while she healed and take care of her wound. And so she came right over here to foster care, and one of our really fabulous foster moms took care of her wound while it healed and bottle fed the babies as needed.
Oh.
And they flourished, all of them, and they are just the most well-rounded, well-socialized, people-friendly kittens you could ever hope to meet. Not to mention being really fuzzy and cute.
Yeah, and he's got a really cute little unique-looking face too, right?
Yeah, his eyes are a little close set, but he's got this. It's a little flat, not flat like a person, but just a very round face. And his eyes are a little bit close set, and he's very fluffy, and he's just adorable and very gray.
Oh, and very great. I just loved him. But he got to go on a little adventure. Am I right?
Well, I wouldn't call him an adventure, but he probably does.
Right.
He was in the adoption room. Came in like last Sunday, a week ago, or almost 2 weeks ago now, and had just been there a couple of days. And my closing volunteer on Tuesday night last week, there were some nice young guys sitting outside the room, pointing at the kittens and playing with them through the window. And she let them in to meet the kittens. And so they sat on the floor and played with the kittens for a while. And then one of them had an adult friend or an older friend who came in, and one left because she said, I can't have 3 people in here. It's such a small space. And one of them went out, and 2 of them were in the room, and they were playing with the kittens, and there were all 5 kittens running around, which is chaos. And she turned from them towards the other end of the room, which is tiny, to pick up an application and hand it to them. And apparently in that split second, the older gentleman put the cat in his jacket.
Wow.
And then they left with the application, and she realized almost immediately she was missing a kitten. She actually ran out into the parking lot and stopped them at the car and said, hey, did one of our kittens happen to maybe crawl into one of your coats or jackets or pockets when you weren't looking? Did they follow you out of the room? Did you see them? Do you know anything about where I seem to be missing this kitten? Which I thought was incredibly brave of her.
Me too.
And they just denied everything, and they drove away. And then they called the police and called me, and the police came and took a report, and they apparently got footage from the PetSmart and published it. And people almost immediately started telling us that they knew who one of the kids was, that he was a student at a local school. And they called those into the police department. The police department worked that case. Apparently, these people have had prior bad acts because there's a parole officer involved, and school officials were involved, and the public was involved. And Officer Conrad said he'd put like 12 hours into the case, and went and got the kitten. He talked the kid's mom into letting him into the house and giving him the kitten.
Oh, and how is Booberry now?
Booberry came back totally unharmed and absolutely unfazed by his experience.
Wow.
I'm sure he told his siblings all about his adventures. As you said, he probably thought it was an adventure.
He needs to write a children's book.
I am looking forward to putting him on the front of our calendar next year as a full-grown adult kitten.
Oh.
When he's in his full adult glory. He and his sister, Harvest Moon Lotus, had a pending application from their foster mom's daughter's best friend.
Wow.
That was in process. That was in process before he was stolen. So when he came back, And I had to tell them that their kitten had been stolen, which you can imagine was one of the worst days of my life
Yeah.
and devastating for them. But
Sure.
he came back. We completed the adoption on Friday. He went home with them. He's been home snuggling. We posted pictures on our Facebook page of them both in Dad's lap. They're doing great.
Oh, I am just so glad that Booberry made it to his real forever home. Sue from Whiskers in Need, thank you for coming on the show, and we hope you'll come back again one day.
Well, anytime. Thank you so much for helping us. This has been amazing. The public support and the media support has done everything to get this boy home, and it was everything we needed. Thank you.
I think you're amazing. God bless you, dear. Take care.
You too.